Good morning everybody and welcome to the data structure class. Today we have first class of this course. So today course overview will be presented. Then we will see what are data structure and why we are using it, and how can we select data structure to solve our problems. Then, because in this course the implementation is of various data structures is done in C++, so a short review of C++ will be presented. In this review, we see the data types, variables, pointers, arrays, and structure. We will discuss briefly these few components of C++. Data structure course is very important subject. It is usually considered as the foundation course in computer science, very basic course. Because the data structures we will learn that you will learn in this course will be encountered again and again in coming courses. So it is very important. You may already studied C or C++ or some other languages. So you already used some data structures. But in this course we will cover well-known data structures such as linked list, stacks, queues, trees, and graphs. And then you will also implement these data structures using C++. There will be a midterm exam that will contain 30%, and final exam will be conducted at the end of this course. It will contain 45%, and there are few programming assignments, 5 to 7. These will contribute 25% in final grade. This is the textbook, Data Structures and Algorithm Analysis in C++, 3rd edition by Alan Weiss. So this book covers most of the topics. Actually, I use this book due to another reason also. maybe next semester or so you need to take another course, algorithm analysis. So algorithm analysis and data structures are very closely related courses. So this book may also be helpful when you will study algorithm analysis. We will also use this books as a reference book, ADT, data structures and problem solving with C++. It is written by Larry Naouf. This book actually contains many examples. So for practice point of view, this book is very helpful. During this course, I will use some slides prepared by Professor Dr. Sohail Aslam. And almost in every problem, we have some data. We need to process, we need to store, we need to retrieve it. So the objective is to find solution that is efficient, and efficient solution is that solves the problem within its resource constraint. In resource, we have memory, we have time to process data, and space to store memory. These are two main resources. So each data structure has costs and benefits. That means there are many data structures that can be used to store the data. Any data structure used in a program will have some benefits. For this, you have to pay price. What mean by price? Price is the utilization of resources. In rare cases, a data structure may be better than another one in all situations. This is the reason that we have not one data structure, we have many data structures, because one data structure cannot be used for solving all kind of problems. It may be in one particular situation, one data structure is very useful, but in another situation, for another problem, maybe this data structure is not suitable. So we may need some other data structure. For example, if we think that array is good enough for all the problems, that means we are wrong. In some cases, arrays may be good, but other cases it may not suitable. So there are three things that are associated with data structures: space, For each data item it stores. Second is time. To perform each basic operation, and the programming efforts. So here the basic operation is related to data structures. Basic operations may be to store the data, or to retrieve the data, or to display the data. So, how we can select the most suitable data structure? How can we decide which one is the perfect data structure for my problem? First thing is to analyze the problem to determine the resource constraint that a solution must meet. We need to see how much memory we have to store the data, and other constraints. In some cases, in some solution, we need faster calculations. We need runtime solutions. The second thing is, it is necessary to determine the basic operations that must be supported. Basic operations: retrieving the data, or to store the data, or to display, or there may be some others. So, keeping in mind these situations, we need to select the data structure that meets these requirements the maximum. That means utilization of minimum time and resources, we here normally abstract data type with other data types. Usually we know already. What's the difference between, usually we have data types in different languages and abstract data types? Here the concept of data abstraction is used. An ADT consists of a collection of data and operations on the data items. To implement the ADTs, we need data structure, organization of data, and algorithms for basic operations. In data abstraction, data normally is kept separate. From operations. If we want to get data, we can access through these operations. We can see here is data. Operations. Let's suppose here are programs the operations provide interface to the program to access this data. The program cannot directly access this data. These programs will interact these data items. How we store these items and how we make these operations interface related to these data items. So, these two things are related to ADTs. Normal data types are specific to some language. C++ has data types, C has data types, Fortran has data types, COBOL has data types. So, their syntax is associated with that language. But here it is some generalization we can implement in any language. If we know the structure of the data and the operations, we can implement in any language. Let's have an example. This example is taken from this book. There are some seats and customer wants to reserve the seats. And one option is we can declare the data types as a character, seat 1, seat 2, seat 3 and seat 10. So, that means 10 characters. And if it is space, if it is space, the value of these variables, that means seat is available if it has this symbol, it indicates seat has been assigned to someone. And one operation associated with this problem is using this data structure to display the available seats. So, algorithm will be check every seat. If the value of seat is equal to space, then it will display, otherwise it will, if this has this symbol, that means it already assigned. So, this is a short algorithm, it will just display the available seats. There may be some other operation. That operation is, if seat is available, then reserve it. So, this algorithm will reserve the seat. How it will do? If seat 1 is equal to space, that means it is available, do the following. Displayed, do you wish to assign seat number 1? This will be the question asked to the customer. If he said okay, I want, then it will be assigned to him. Otherwise, if he is not agree, computer can show him that seat 2 is available, 3 is available, or 4. So, this may be the one algorithm for assigning the seats. So, that means here data is seat 1, seat 10 of type character, and operation are display the available seat and reserve the seat, 2 operations. So, this is the structure of the data, these are the operations. Let us see another structure of the same problem. Here, instead of storing data in 10 different characters, 10 different variables of data type character, we define an array of seat, array of name seat, type is character. Let us see how this structure of the data has changed the algorithm. The output is same, but number of lines or strategy of our algorithm is changed. Purpose is same. It is also displaying the available seats. It is just one loop that display the available seats. If seat has space, value space, then that means this seat is available. Similarly, if we see the algorithm for reserving the seat, it also is become very simple. So, from this example, we can see how this data structure changed the two operations purpose is same. So now we will have a short review of C++, and this figure I took from this book. It displays the summary of different data types. You are already familiar with these data types. Here data types are divided into two main categories. Here, structure type, fundamental types. These are also called primitive data types, and this is non-primitive. If you again look deeply from these data types, you can see that they can hold or store single value. That means it may be integer, character, floating point, or yes or no. The second thing is, you can immediately know is related to the memory. If we declare a variable of type int and another variable of type double, maybe both have different memory. Both variable will contain different size of memory, maybe 4 byte and 8 byte. Third thing we can conclude from this side, that these types are not efficient, are not suitable when we have collection of data items, because they can hold only single value. On the other hand, this type, if we have more than one data items, they can hold different types. Array, struct, union, these are also we can found in C, language C. Class is not in C, but we can see here from these three, collection of items can be stored. But again, items may be of same type, homogeneous, or of different types, inhomogeneous. Array can hold only homogeneous item, but we may have problems. We need to store inhomogeneous items. Then we can use struct. There are some similarities between class and struct data structure, data type. So these basic data types are basically data structures. the few things associated with each data type is some terminologies. We usually write variables, their types. Sometimes we have this one. Here actually we are declaring some variable. Declaration of variable is important. So each data type has to be declared. Here with declaration an assignment is also associated. So when we declare an data item, declare a variable, we give a name, variable name, and it has some type, and this name indicate some memory in computer. So memory is related to the data type. These things you already know. And that memory has some address and value. Value is stored data. So let's see here this picture. This is some memory inside computer, and these are the addresses. Addresses may be in binary or hexadecimal. And this X. We declare some variable. When we declare, that means X. It has some type. Remember this one. It indicates a variable. X indicates a location in the memory. So memory allocated for variable of specified type. So this variable name associated with that memory location. Value actually the data we want to store. And address of the variable. These are the basic terminologies. You are already familiar with these things. Let us see this picture. We declare double var, name of the variable, int character. In memory, int variable is given the location here, double here, character here. If we assign some value, it will be here, here or here. These are the addresses. If you know, if you remember this operator, percent operator, if we use with variable, we can find the address of the variable. So, writing these 3 lines, actually we can find these addresses, this one, this one. Let us see what is pointer now. Keep in mind these terminologies. A pointer is a variable used to store an address. So, as we have other variables, pointer is just a variable, but other variables stores values, but here it stores address instead of value. Just see, it will store this kind of thing, address. This variable has some address. These variables are used to store the values, but this pointer is used to store the address. The declaration of pointer is like this: type static pointer variable. That means we just add this static in addition to the pointer variable. If we have not this static, here type and variable name, this is the usual method to declare any variable. It is just declaration. At the declaration, as it is the case with other data types, we need to initialize after declaration. Otherwise, we may have some, if we are using the variables without initialization, then we may get some unpredictable results. So, this line shows the one method to initialize with declaration, same as here. We gave 10 value, initial value to a variable declared of type int. Here we need to give some address to initialize this variable. Example is here. These are 2 pointer variables, static PTR, static CHPTR. One is of type int and other is of type vector. Type is very important actually. Everywhere type type is there. When we declare an data item, when we assign, type is associated everywhere. Let us see this small program. Int I is declared and j is declared and assigned two values. Then d and e, two variables of type double, are declared and assigned value. Then two pointers, int point ijptr and jptr, of type int are declared to store addresses of these two, and two other pointers of type double are also declared. Using address operator, we get address of I variable and assign to the pointer I ptr. Similarly, address of j variable assigned to the jptr. And here D and E, addresses of D and E are assigned to D ptr and E ptr variable. These are pointer variables. And then we display addresses of I and pointer, its corresponding pointer, j pointer. Can you guess the output? Let's see what happened. Address of I equal to, just we display the value inside the pointer variable. This is the output, and figuratively we can see I here, j here at addresses, these are assigned integer values, and D and E are assigned double of type double. Here and here they are stored. When we assign the pointer address of I, this address is assigned to pointer variable. So just see, pointer variables contain addresses, normal variables contain values. There are some basic operations that we can perform on pointer variables. First one is dereferencing and indirection. Here, if we put asterisk before variable, it provides us the value stored at the address that contain this pointer. This is operator, dereferencing operator. This is pointer, this is dereferencing the pointer variable. This is variable, this is address, this is the value of the variable, this is the value of the pointer. Pointer contain address. If we dereference this pointer, we will get value. This is very important actually when we use a pointer. So let's have 10-minute break. Pointer has some basic operations. So one of them is dereferencing of the pointer. As you know, the pointer variable stores address of a location, and to access the contents of this location, the dereferencing operator, that means star, before the pointer is used. Let's see this program. Two integer variables I and j are declared and initialized, and two double variables d and e are declared and initialized. Two pointers for integers and two pointers of double data types are also declared. Here the address of integer variables I and j are stored in integer pointers, and address of double variable d and e are assigned to pointers having data type double. Let's see the output of this program. It is printing pointers values and the contents of the locations these pointers hold. So you can see here the difference between values of these two parameters, two variables. At this address, the value 11 is stored. That means the contents, this is value of int variable. The address of int variable is this one, and this is stored to the pointer. So this slide shows the output of this program. So these are addresses, these are values of pointers. When we use dereferencing operator, the contents of the locations are available. Assignment. We can assign values to the variables. Similarly, pointer variables can be assigned the values of other pointer variables bound to same type. if we have two variables, let's suppose there is another variable int c, then we can assign value of a to c. Similarly, we can assign values of other pointer variables this sign is assignment sign. It is not equal actually in C language. For equal, we have this one. For comparison, this is assignment sign. See in this figure, these are two integer variables and their addresses are stored into two pointer variables, and we write this command. We assign the value of IPTR to JPTR. What happened? Now these two pointer variables are pointing to the same location. These are holding to the same address. Now, if we change the value of these location, if we change the contents of these location, then actually these both have the changed value. So, in programming it is not a good practice, hard to debug, and this problem known as aliasing problem. Other operators can be applied. Let's suppose comparison operators. You know the comparative operators, like this kind of operators, comparison we can do, or this one, equal to, not equal to, this kind of operators. We can apply on pointers. Remember, pointers contain addresses instead of values. So, addresses will be compared, addresses will be always evaluated. So, most common are these two, equal and not equal. The null address may be compared with any pointer variable. Null is same for all. But for comparing two pointers, we need to keep in mind that we are comparing two pointers of same type. Another operation is dynamically memory allocation. We can do this to other data types also. Similarly, for pointer variable, we can allocate memory at runtime from the heap. Heap is area in the memory when program runs, one area. We studied in last class that when program executed, there is runtime stack also. So in memory, these things are arranged in such a way that code is placed somewhere and somewhere runtime stack, and there is heap also. So, you can see here few lines of code that stores an input value in this variable, and we have this operation, increment. So what will it do? Same way as we are working with other variables, we can work with pointer variables. This relational operator and incrementation is done same way as with other variables. Similarly, pointers can be passed as arguments to functions. You already know when we call functions, some functions demand arguments. We pass some arguments by value or by reference. So we can pass arguments. And this is logically equivalent to reference parameters. We will see some examples. These two programs are shown. What they do, they just swap two elements, first and second. Here, swap program function is getting arguments by reference, here by pointers, in second by pointers. So let's say the other useful data structure, arrays. Array is collection of data elements, all of same type, and each element is accessed by specifying its location. So, static array, dynamic array. It is very simple. Int a, simply we can declare it, r like this. Here it allocates memory dynamically at runtime. Syntax is element type, array name, and capacity. The second line also contains initializer list. That means we can initialize array at declaration time. This line does not initialize, it creates array of size 10 with the name b. Variable name is b, and each element is accessible through this position, this operator. So this is array b having 10 positions. So value of each position can be accessed by specifying the location. Array type may be character, may also be. We can declare array of type character or other types like double. Can be any type. So here array of name and name capacity may be some integer and initialize with John Doe. So here you can see these two places are not initialized. So these two places are extra locations.
There is one space, this one.
This one?
Yeah.
It is space initialized. This space is here. These are extra space. This is required by this name. So these are the null positions. See here, this picture explains more. So here this braces can be considered as an operator. So as we know, when we declare array, it allocate consecutive memory locations. So this can be an operator and it performs address translation. That's why name of the array is a pointer constant. Get this one. If we know the base address, that means at subscription 0, subscript 0, we can have some initial address, other addresses we can found. So it is something interesting and useful. Let's suppose this is array and these are addresses. If we store this address to a pointer, we assign address A, let's suppose now this address may be this one, PTR contains, pointer contains this address. If we use this PTR plus plus, that means we are moving, we are adding one to address next location, next location. These arithmetic operations directly performing on pointer variables can give us some strange results. That means if we adding two pointers, that means we are adding two addresses. So we can get elements in the array by just incrementing this pointer. You can see here a small program that just display values from the array. Just simple program, just one loop, number of values, the array, the value inside array is displayed. And we can insert value from keyboard into an array. These lines explain how to add elements from keyboard. some compilers give errors when we insert values out of range. Int array can contain values up to a specific limit. Double type of array of type double have some different capacity. So this program shows out of range errors. We can declare array of dimension more than 1. Just see this table. Test course table contains many rows and many columns. To store values spread on a sheet, we can declare two-dimensional array. Here the type, array name, number of rows, number of columns. These are the number of rows, will be 30, and number of columns will be 5. Similarly, we may need arrays of dimension more than 3. So just see here, we have many sheets. So in this case, we need another dimension, number of rows, number of columns, and number of ranks. On each sheet, different ranks, students have different ranks are stored. So this is 3-dimensional array. We can also declare an array of arrays. See, it is just 2-dimensional array. Each item in the array is itself an array. So each of the rows is itself a 1-dimensional array of values. Score table 2, this shows the third row is the whole row numbered 2, and for specific one item we can access in the second row and the fourth column. This picture shows how the memory is assigned. You can see here first 0 0 0 0 0 and 0 1 2 3 4 and then 1 1 1 1 1 0 1 2 3 4. So consecutive locations will be allocated. First row, then second row, then third row, and so on. So, dynamically memory can be allotted to the arrays. The two commands new and delete are used to allocate and deallocate the memory dynamically. We can use these two commands with other types also. How we can apply new operator? Syntax is very simple. New, type, capacity. And here, what it is? Here, a pointer variable is declared and memory is allocated dynamically. Just see, this memory is the value of the pointer variable. This memory address is here. So, we already see arithmetics of pointer. See here, if we add, we can get next address, but here array name is constant. So, in this case, we can apply arithmetics to pointer variables. Sometimes memory cannot be allocated dynamically. That means there may be insufficient memory. In that case, and this new operator will throw an exception, bad along. That means memory is not enough and this operation is failed. Memory is not allocated. So, we can handle this exception by try and catch mechanism. You see here, here is example. We try here. If there is not sufficient memory, then program will display a message. Otherwise, memory will be allocated successfully. So, the counterpart of the new operation is delete operation. New used to allocate memory, and delete operation is used to deallocate memory, and its syntax is delete pointer variable, delete this operator, and then array pointer variable. What is the difference between these two? This will delete the block of the memory, and this will delete only single address, single memory. There is a term memory leaks. Let's suppose there is a pointer that indicates some memory location. This is location. This is pointer that contains address of this memory, this location. We assign, there is another PRT1, it has some address different from this one. If we just assign PTR1, that means this pointer no longer contain address, this address will be changed. That means this block of memory now is not accessible. We cannot do anything with this location. It is already has some contents. It may have some value. It may have something. It is already assigned. So during the execution of the program, it will remain in the memory. So this term is known as memory leaks. So if we do not apply the proper delete operation, we can face this. If we apply delete operation before assigning this delete operation will not delete this variable, it will delete this location. So we need to first apply delete operation. After delete operation, we can use variable. Variable is there. We can assign new address. So in this diagram, if again a new operation is applied to this pointer, we have another array somewhere else in the memory. But the previous memory, we have no access. We cannot access that location because we know that memory only by some pointer, and pointer contents are changed. So we need to worry about this one, because if during the execution of program memory leaks happen too much, it may affect the efficiency of our program. So Let us see now aggregate data types. That means we need different data types to aggregate, to combine. Arrays facilitate aggregate data type of data items of same type, but if we need two different data types, then array cannot hold. So, when objects have multiple attributes, multiple attributes mean, let us suppose me is an object, I have multiple attributes. I have attribute my name, address, my age, my phone number, email. These are different attributes, and these attributes are of different type. Some are of integer type, some are of character type, some are of character arrays. C++ provide struct and classes mechanism to handle multiple attributes. So, built-in data types cannot handle this situation. We need to create them. We can create them by two methods, using structs or using classes. Here we can see the example of struct temperature. Temperature is a new data type. It combined, aggregated two different data types, double and character. There is another. We created structure of date. This contain three attributes. Two of them are of type int and other is type of character. And we have another structure that contain unsigned data types, character, double, so struct can be nested. That means this data type can include the data types created by using other construct. Let us see, here name is of type character, birth is type date. Date is not, data type, but we created using construct, and computer uses info this type also created by using construct. So, graphically we can see this student class record has multiple attributes and this type is created using construct mechanism. These three attributes contain another data type date, and these three from computer uses info data type. So, we now need to access the member of the struct object. How can we get these individual attribute from this object? Dot operator. So, name of the object, struct object dot the member name, we can access. Here is some code that explain how can we access the specific data element. You can see here dot a student dot score, and here current date dot year dot month day, and here also. We can use pointers to struct also, because struct also provides some type. Type is associated with every variable. So, we can have declaration with a pointer variable of type date. Date is created using struct. The same case will be happen when we will use it data types created by classes. Here you can see this pointer is pointing this type. Okay. Here, if we want to get value of day, we need to dereference it. In dereference this pointer and then using dot operator, we will get the value inside the day. But there is another operator that can replace these two operators. This operator will do this line of code, and this line of code will do the same action. So, to access a member of struct type, we can use this arrow. On its left is a pointer, and on its right is object or object member. So, in this slide, the main difference in procedural approach and in object oriented approach are listed. What is procedural approach? This is usually we do in C. It is also called structural language, structure language. We can write programs, functions, sub-functions, and we can use some control statements, loops, while loop, do loop, for loops. Actually, before this procedural or structured language was compared with non-structured language in old days. But in object oriented paradigm, the main focus is on nouns of the problem specification. That means we determine objects and relation between objects. And object has two main properties: data members and function members. All actions are related to some objects. And instances of a type class called objects. This is actually the difference between two approaches. In this approach, we focus on verbs, actions. That approach focus on nouns, objects. That is actually mimicked from natural environments. In nature, objects do two things. Objects have attributes and objects has some capabilities to do something. So, objects can be created from struct and classes. So, there are some similarities. Both are used to model objects with multiple attributes, characteristics, represented as data members, also called fields. Both can be used to process non-homogeneous data sets. These are the similarities. But classes has some advantages and also have some differences with structs. The concept of this object leads to the object oriented programming. In object oriented programming, objects are self contained. Mentality is I can do it myself. So here we will not study in this course the benefits or the properties of object oriented programming, but we will restricted ourselves to develop classes, because these are two methods, struct and classes, to develop new data types. We are interested in developing data types to store the data. So we will briefly look into the structure of the classes. So today we stop here. We will continue this discussion and see in next class how classes are helpful, concept of classes to build new objects. We need objects to create data types. So let's stop here today. Thank you very much for joining today.